Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Gaming Mix podcast, your official podcast from analogstickgaming.com. Of course, if you don't know me by now, I'm one of the co owners, Jordan, and to my right, as he most often is, we have the founder himself, Jeff. How are you doing, sir?
Well, it's raining a lot,
It's right.
so haven't been really been able to take Banter out for a walk or go to the park and stuff. So it's just been just pouring today. So
I mean, I wish it was raining here. As you may know, if you've been following the channel for a while, we've actually been away for a couple of weeks. The main reason for that is over here in the UK, it was so hot last week that I literally could not have my PC on because we were talking like 38 degrees Celsius plus at times. It was crazy. It was
hmm.
absolutely nuts. And as you know, because I've mentioned it before, we don't really have air conditioning in the UK. It's not a thing. So 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 yeah, that was very tough, which has also put me behind on some of the things I've been working on for us and our friends at the Outer Haven. But I have some cool stuff coming up that we'll talk about later. Of course, we have news to talk about, gaming news, and our friend Keith Mitchell may or may not pop into this episode to talk about a few of those news stories. But for now, Jeff, considering Keith isn't here and we're both wrestling fans, I feel like we should talk about WWE Night of Champions that happened yesterday. Because I think we'll
um,
have a lot to say on this one.
yeah, let me bring up the card just so I'm not missing
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
anything.
But
But
yeah,
my
it was obviously
keyboard's garbage. If
for the
anyone wants to send me a computer, go for it.
for those that don't know, Night of Champions did take place over in Saudi Arabia, and I know that at least from some people's point of view, that was one of the main reasons for one of the results of one of the matches. So we should probably talk about the show.
Yeah. All right. Forgive me if I'm yawning. I'm like tired, but I'm not tired at the exact same time.
I know
Um,
that feeling.
all right, so we opened up with Oba Femi versus Jey Uso. A lot of people were expecting Brock Lesnar to interfere, but I think it makes kind of more sense with one of the other things we'll talk about later on of where I think they're going to place Brock and um, how they are essentially going to use Brock Lesnar for Obafemi, but
Completely
Obafemi
agree.
one. A lot of people were saying that he tapped, but it was just more of him like building like momentum from the crowd or whatever, like banging the mat and stuff. Except he kind of did it with like an open fist, but not in the the rhythm of tapping out. I mean, Jey Uso even said he tapped on Twitter or whatever, or Instagram or
Yeah.
something. So we'll see how
Yeah.
that plays out.
I mean, if they play that into storyline, it'll be interesting to see. Because they sometimes do that, they sometimes take cues from socials and things and play it into storylines. But I think that ultimately this was the right result for this match, right? Like, Oba had to win this match. So,
Yeah, yeah. Like you again, like you don't want to put Jay in the title spot. It's just it's not his lane right now. Like he's very much like a tag team wrestler. Like he's
yeah,
pretty much there. It's the same reason why they weren't putting like Matt Hardy or Jeff Hardy or something like in the major title scene and stuff like that, because again,
absolutely.
like he just works so much better as a tag team guy. But I mean, the match was fine for what it is, but like Oba's getting extremely fast tracked right now, and for good reason. I mean, he's already pretty much a main event star. Like um, he's already got that kind of aura when it comes to like what WWE is kind of wanting from their champions. So,
Yeah, completely agree with you 100%.
um, all right, Then we had Io Sky versus Liv Morgan. I mean, the cursing at the beginning of the match basically told us everything we needed to know.
It
They
did.
spoiled the entire match before it even started, um, which I don't understand why they did that, but I guess it was just so that Liv Morgan would have some type of thing to kind of complain about going into her SummerSlam match with Io Sky. Um, so yeah, I will, take on Liv at SummerSlam. That was her choice for winning Queen of the Ring.
Yes.
Like, all in all, it was a pretty decent match. I mean, it was, you know, good for them. In regards to like, performing in a crowd that generally doesn't go, crazy about a lot of the women's matches.
Yeah,
Uh,
I completely agree. It was it. I think that them having the curse moment did sort of feel a bit like, okay, you're just giving away the result that everybody knew that was going to be the result anyway.
yeah,
I think everyone expected EO to win, but then when you do the curse moment, you're like, it's almost like, oh, we know that you all know, so we're going
yeah,
to do this, So it felt unnecessary. But I also get it because Danhausen and the curse situation is very, very over right now. So, you know.
yeah. And we had Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker in a steel cage match. I know a lot of people were um, hoping that Braun was going to win it just so that his momentum kind of wasn't snuffed out. But to me, this was like the only way to get Seth to like move on.
Yeah,
So
I
Seth
agree.
wins, and
I agree.
yeah, like it was a fairly decent match. It was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and it's kind of interesting too that like of these like first three matches and stuff, there was like no interference, like there was no kind of foul play in a
Yeah,
lot of
I was
ways.
quite surprised. I was quite surprised by that.
Then we had Trick Williams versus Ricky Saints for the United States Championship. This one was like it was a fine match. Like like I rather would have had Carmelo Hayes,
Yeah. Yeah.
in this match, but overall it wasn't too bad. Yachty got ejected out early, so that it kind of was just about them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't too bad of a match.
Yeah, it was okay, and I what I will say is I agree with you. Yes, I would have rather had Carmelo Hayes because I think that match just needs to happen at some point, let's be honest. But I am glad that they're actually doing something with Ricky Saints because sometimes these guys and girls come up from NXT and then they don't know what to do with them. And I'm glad that they're at least trying to do something with him. That's
Yeah.
you know.
Um, I think if the Cody and Gunther and Sammy match hadn't been a triple threat, I think that this match would have been a triple threat with Carmelo.
Probably. Yeah,
You
that's
know,
a good point actually. I didn't even think about that. You're probably right there. Cuz that
because
would have been a
it's
really good match. Like if this was a triple threat with Carmelo in as well. I think it would have been a very good match.
yeah, and I think like there's a lot of assumption that Sammy being added into the that match was kind of something that kind of started kind of within the last couple weeks really
Yeah.
of adding him in there and stuff like that. So maybe this match could have been was originally going to be a triple threat, and then like, okay, well, we have to do a number one contenders
Yeah, we can't have
on
two kind of
SmackDown.
thing. Yeah.
And then we had Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill. This match was incredibly short. I think it was like 7.5 minutes or something like that. It was very, very short, but it ended exactly as I assumed that it would. Like exactly that they're setting up Flair versus Jade Cargill for SummerSlam. or even Night of Champions. Who knows? But
Yeah,
then
for
Tiffany
sure.
getting the win over Cargill, so kind of like the reverse outcome of their previous match on a Saturday night main event. Um, Chelsea also kind of helping Tiffany Stratton again, cementing that kind of tag team kind of thing that they have going on and stuff, which is actually really good. Especially the thing with the stick as well, like
Yeah,
bouncing out, and I think that
yeah, yeah.
was that on SmackDown or was that on Night of Champions?
I think that was on SmackDown. I
Oh, okay,
think.
yeah, yeah, that was actually really good. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it
because then
was.
that started the match with Jade and Chelsea later in the evening. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
no, it was a good match. It was just very short, and I know Piper Niven commented that Jade did a particular move wrong, which kind of put Tiffany Stratton at risk. There was just like a kind of like a power bomb where she didn't kind of put enough weight in a certain area, and it
Oh
caused her
well.
to land wrong.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
um, there's that as well too. But that criticism's been going on for like the last year. You
yeah.
know.
Of course, and it is what it is. I like. There was always going to be at least one short match on this pay per view as well,
Yeah, especially when
and
they went six matches.
yeah, and I think it had to be this one in a way. Like, it just, I think there was no other choice.
Yeah. Then we had, well, I mean, the thing about it as well too is like it didn't really need to be short, considering there were a lot of breaks in between matches.
That's
There was a
true.
lot of length. There was a lot of promo packages. There were a lot of commercials. Like there were probably more. There's probably enough promo packages and commercials than like two of the matches tonight combined. Um,
That's true. That
so I
is
mean,
true, actually.
they could have cut down on a lot of that as well too, because like it just the promo packages just even with like SmackDown and stuff, they were like, hey, just in case you're just joining us, 3.5 seconds ago, Seth Rollins did this. Like they can't help but like assume that people are just jumping in,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
15 minutes and need to know what
I can,
happened.
I can understand like what I've said about like the promo packages and stuff for matches in the past is I can understand them doing it for the bigger pay per views, for your WrestleManias and for your SummerSlams and things like that, because those are your payoff moments. Those are the things that you build to, and
Yeah.
these are supposed to be like marquee matches and marquee events, but they don't need to have promo packages at every single PLE pay per view event, recapping, stuff that people know anyway. It's just weird.
Yeah, there was just too much of it, especially with like the commercials and stuff like that. Like if you're going to do the promo packages and stuff for your PLE audiences, the people that are watching and stuff like that, um, I mean, I get it. You can't do it on ESPN because ESPN has commercials, even though it's a paid app and whatnot. Um,
Yeah,
then just do them during the commercial breaks for like the Netflix audience or whatever the case is. Like
yeah,
like
yeah,
utilize
for
that
sure.
time better, or just do a better job with the commentary during the match of explaining the setup and stuff. Like some of the promo packages, like especially if you're watching like the pre-show,
Hmm.
it shows all of that shit,
Yeah, precisely.
and then you see it all again.
It's so
you know
weird. It's so weird.
yeah. But and then the last match was Cody Rhodes versus Sami Zayn versus Gunther. And of course, being in Saudi Arabia with a $500 million deal of hosting Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, we have Saudi Arabia's favorite, Sami Zayn, getting the pinfall over Cody Rhodes and becoming the new transitional champion. Um, but yeah, like I think honestly, like a lot of people right now, the speculation is that they're going to feed him to Brock at Saturday Night Main Event, and then you're going to then have Oba versus Brock
Yeah.
for the
For the
title
belt.
and the career
Yeah.
essentially, and then Oba will be the undisputed champion without having to pin like one of the biggest people that are going to be sticking around.
Yeah, for sure. So I've got a couple of thoughts on this. Firstly, I actually feel sorry for Sami Zayn because I think there has been times in the past where he arguably actually deserved to have this belt put on him. And then now it feels like they just put it on him for a throwaway kind of one off moment that's a feel good moment in the moment because like first ever time he's become the major champion, obviously in a country that many of those people share the same religion as him and things like that. And it's like, so I get it, but one of the biggest criticisms of WWE over the last sort of year to year and a half has always been it feels like some of their decisions are about making these one off moments and not actually doing real concrete planning of where do we want to go and what do we want to do. It's just, it's really weird. And I know that we sort of alluded to it earlier. There were maybe some changes in plans recently around the title picture that got Sammy involved into things because I
Well,
know that. Go on.
yeah, like apparently the talk going around the dirt sheets right now is that Sammy was supposed to win the title at Mania, not Night of Champions.
Yeah, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Like that would have made more sense, right?
Yeah, but do
Like
you do bitching and moaning Sammy for 10 more months?
no, and that's the thing. I think, and I said it at the time, and I get why they didn't, but I still believe that match a few years ago where Sammy fought Roman Reigns when Roman was still the champion on his incredible run, and it was at Elimination Chamber in Canada, in Montreal, I believe.
Yeah.
Like Sammy should have won. Sammy should have won that match. That was the time when he deserved to be the top
Yeah, but I don't
champion.
know against Roman. I don't think it'd be Sammy ending Roman's,
And that's the
streak.
only reason he didn't win, right? Like if that match was against anyone else at that time, Sammy would have won because that was the most over that Sammy has ever been within his WWE career. And I do feel like, as you mentioned, it's very much he has now become a transitional champion. That, as you said, it's probably their way of how do we get the belt away from Cody so that we can then get it onto Brock in a believable way while then getting it to Oba. Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah, let's see. Like I could see them on SmackDown and stuff where they do the thing, whatever, where he's the champion, he comes out and talks about it and blah 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 blah, and then you'd still have like the Gunther and the Cody things and stuff and the interference and all this kind of talk and stuff. But I could see him like backstage or whatever, and he's talking to Gargano, and then it's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna give you a title shot tonight, whatever. And then that's when like Brock just comes in and just like Gargano
That
thinks
would
everything's
actually be
looking up
quite
because
funny.
he has like, and then he gets completely owned by Brock, and then Brock basically like F5s like Sammy, and then that
That
would
would
kind of
actually be
set it
quite
up.
interesting. I mean, to me, the only way it would have made more sense for like Sammy to win or whatever is, and I don't think this is the case, but if Kevin Owens is coming back and they want to immediately put Kevin Owens into a big storyline, what better way than to have him come back and be like the challenger for Sammy? But it just doesn't feel like that's where they're going with it, you know?
No, and Kevin's not even close to being back for being medically cleared for returning
Yeah,
as well too. So,
yeah,
but I,
absolutely.
I'm pretty sure that they're gonna put the title on on Brock to go into Oba. I mean, unless
I
that
agree.
is like the way that they're kind of baiting us. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, maybe, maybe. I mean, I know that the original plan post Mania was to have CM Punk against Cody at SummerSlam. That was the original idea for what they were gonna do with the belt. But then apparently Punk has had not necessarily a falling out, but he's had some disagreements with TKO and things like that. And so that's kind of delayed his comeback slightly. He obviously had some time off. It's
Hmm.
delayed his comeback slightly and potentially made them rethink things. I think there were problems around, like, he had an issue with certain things they were doing with the booking of his wife AJ Lee, and also, like many other wrestlers, he was apparently one of the ones that they asked to take a massive pay cut, and it's like, so I can understand there being some tension there. But yeah, I think in lieu of Punk kind of not coming back as quickly as they expected, they sort of had to rethink things. But I also think, to kind of take it back to Obafemi here, it's a credit to Obafemi because I think he's got over and become popular much more quickly than they expected. And I think that's why they've accelerated that path for him. Because, when Oba initially debuted on the main roster, I was thinking to myself, okay, this guy's probably going to win the next Royal Rumble, and then he'll be the, like, next Mania. We'd be looking at Oba challenging for the belt, and it feels like they've kind of accelerated that by 6 to 8 months because he has been so over and things like that. So credit to him. I look forward to seeing him have that belt. I do have a question though, Jeff, before we move on to the video games.
Hmm.
Where do you think this leaves Cody Rhodes again? Like, this isn't the first time they've done this to Cody.
Yeah, I don't know where they're gonna put him right now. Unless um, something happens on SmackDown or whatever that kind of puts him back in a feud against Randy Orton.
Oh yeah, yeah, that could be interesting. That could be interesting. But yeah, that's been wrestling so far this week. Obviously, as always, we will keep you up to date with every PLE as they happen and we watch them. But before we get to the gaming, Jeff, we should probably have a quick little word from our friends over at NordVPN and of course Vitcher as well.
Alrighty. So right now, NordVPN, you can get up to 70% off, 75% off, plus 3 months extra. That is the best and fastest VPN on the market, a stable and encrypted internet connection, and your all-in-one digital security app, all for about $4.39 Canadian per month. I don't know what the US transfer on that is, but I'm guessing somewhere around 2.99.
Yeah, that's
But
very cheap.
yeah, like it's and again, like if you're watching wrestling and you're living in the States and you don't want to have to deal with the ESPN, then you can use a VPN to essentially just take your Netflix and put it somewhere else in the world that doesn't have to deal with the ESPN, so that you can watch Raw, SmackDown, basically any PLE, and you can just watch it right off your regular Netflix account like everywhere else in the world. So
Yes.
it's definitely a great deal to get in on. And if you continue your subscription past the 30 days, that helps us out as well too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Um,
I would like to say before we move on to Vitcher that if you do support us through NordVPN, remember that we also have the ability for you to sign up to NordPass, which is their password manager, which you can find over on the website. Anywhere where it has the NordPass logo, you just click it, it'll take you straight to that page. Again, that's a couple of dollars a month, and it will help you secure your passwords, remember your passwords, and all these kinds of things. It's a very, very useful tool to have, especially if you've got lots and lots of different accounts that you need to keep track of. So I recommend checking that out as well.
Alrighty. And also, we're also brought to you in part by Vitcher. We've had a chance to try out the Vitcher Beast XR glasses. These are basically like strapping a TV to your forehead, but without the back pain. And it is like they are. There you go. They're fantastic. Like they're really, really good. They
Yeah,
basically start around 549, depending on the different various models and stuff that you're looking for. They are great to kind of just take with you and just have that TV screen experience anywhere you go.
yeah,
There's tons of adapters and a huge selection of accessories that can get you going on either like mobile, or they even get you going on like Switch or Switch 2, or even like Steam Deck or something like that, where
uh,
you're taking that portable experience, but
yeah,
you're getting that big screen experience anywhere you go. And it's
absolutely.
the screen quality is absolutely fantastic. Like they're basically OLED screens. It's better quality than the TV that I've got right in front of me as well too. And these things are just absolutely fantastic.
They are. And we should have the official link for you to support us through your purchase of any Vitcher glasses, basically, coming very, very soon. I have been told it should be ready this week. So keep an eye on the description below, but also over on the website, where I'm sure that we'll also have a link to the Vitcher glasses
Absolutely.
very, very soon. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. And for now, I think it's time to get into the gaming news, Jeff. So the industry has been in a bit of chaos, which which leads me to say, where do you want to begin?
Just in case the Keith shows up, we'll start out with some this other stuff here. Alrighty. Once these pop-ups go away. Alrighty, so we'll start with this. Sony has announced that it will be making further layoffs at Bungie. The news was broken by Destiny 2 Studio in a statement on Twitter saying, "With great sadness, we are announcing a reduction in force as we reorganize Bungie." It added, "As leaders of Bungie's past, present, and well, not future, we recognize Destiny 2 fell short of expectations these past several years. Following our final content update to Destiny 2, and with our future project still in early incubation, we unfortunately could not continue operating at our previous size. We know that this decision has a profound impact on the people affected, their families, friends, and teammates. While these changes are necessary to best position the studio now and for the future, that does not lessen the difficulty of this moment or the impact it has on those affected. Later, we will share more about the future with you, but today is not that day. Today, we wish to extend our gratitude and compassion to every member of the Bungie team who has been impacted, and to those who remain, we hope you will do the same." So there was also an update here, and that is that Bungie studio head Justin Truman, who succeeded Peter Parsons last year, is also stepping down following the news of layoffs. Um, and then we've also got a comment from Herman Hulst. So that is Sony Interactive CEO. Says, "Today I want to share a difficult update regarding Bungie. We have made the decision to reduce Bungie's workforce, affecting a significant number of employees, including most of the Destiny team and some Marathon team members. There are also reductions across SIE teams that support Bungie's operations, and those impacted at Bungie within SCE are being informed today. This is painful news, especially for talented colleagues whose roles have been eliminated. This decision was made only after extensive discussion and careful consideration, and I want to provide some context about how we arrived here." Over the past several months, together with Bungie leadership, we reviewed the studio's long term direction, development priorities, resource needs, and role within our broader portfolio strategy. We explored multiple alternatives before concluding that a reduction was necessary to align the studio's resources with its current priorities and long term goals. As Bungie recently shared in its Destiny 2 update, the studio has begun a new journey following the release of the game's final live service content update. What Bungie has accomplished with Destiny over the past decade has been truly remarkable. The franchise has left a lasting mark on players and the industry, and everyone who contributed to its success should be proud of what they helped create. Wow, this goes on forever. Just a little bit more. Marathon remains an important part of our portfolio, and we will continue to support the team as they build on the strong foundation established in seasons 1 and 2 as they work on incubation efforts for future projects. While it's too early to discuss, we are encouraged by the creativity and opportunities that lie ahead. Our immediate priority is supporting affected employees through this transition. We are providing transition support and, where possible, working to identify opportunities across SIE and our global network of studios. I want to sincerely thank every affected employee for their hard work, creativities to Bungie, SIE, and broader gaming community. I know today's news is deeply difficult for not those leaving, but for those colleagues and friends that remain. So this is like this is one of those things that honestly shouldn't have really happened because Sony was never meant to own Bungie. Like the PlayStation arm was never meant to own Bungie. The whole reason that they signed in to be like acquired was from a tech point of view through Sony, like not PlayStation.
Yes. Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden they were brought in, likely against their will. Like who knows exactly the deals that went on there as well. But I mean, the fact that like this is like Bungie, and
Yeah.
it's like they're one of their like biggest live service teams, and like Sony, and we'll get into another article here coming up here as well about live service and Sony and stuff. But like this is such a it's such a stupid thing because like again like they weren't supposed to own Bungie. They weren't supposed to have autonomy over the studio in that regard. And they're saying like most of the Destiny team got cut,
Yeah.
and then some of the Marathon team got cut, even though like Marathon has really yet to kind of hit with players. And I know they're doing like a restructure to kind of deal with that. Um, but you got to figure like the Destiny team should have been more safe than the Marathon team.
You would have thought so. I mean, I know that Destiny 2 in more recent years had some issues, and they certainly made some bad decisions around that game. But overall, no one could deny that it was a massive success for the decade that it had, and
Mm-hmm.
I think you would have thought that would have earned them the right to get another opportunity, you know? You would have thought that would have earned them the right to be like, okay, Destiny 2 has now finished, let's move on to the next thing. However, I do I do understand that the industry is in a really bad place right now, and we're going to talk more about that, as you said, in upcoming news. But what I would say and what I want to echo is effectively exactly what you said. The initial point of this entire deal was for two reasons. It was basically, hey Bungie, we want your tech, and also, could you provide us some assistance and feedback on how to make good live service games? But even in the announcement of the studio being acquired, it was said of like, Bungie is going to remain effectively wholly independent. We're just purchasing the rights to their tech. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, yes, technically they own the company. But as you said, it was never supposed to be folded into PlayStation Studios Group. However, over the years since that acquisition happened, I think we've slowly seen things where it's like it became very clear that PlayStation wanted more and more control over what Bungie was doing. And I think that's clearly caused some problems, right? Like when you've got another studio head walking away after they've only been in the job a year, there's some really massive problems over there.
Hmm.
And I have to say, like, considering Bungie and the legacy they have within the industry, I am very, very concerned about the studio's future because if this refresh for Marathon fails, what does that mean? Does it mean that in 6, 8 months Bungie's going to be closed down? Like, because if you're cutting half of their entire workforce, and you're even cutting people from a game that only released a couple of months ago, really, that wouldn't give me any confidence that you're going to let them try and make another game. Like, so yeah, I'm very, very concerned for Bungie's future right now.
Yeah,
And
especially if their next project doesn't like sell gangbusters or whatever the case is, then
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
it'll hmm, it'll be what it is, I guess.
Yeah, which is where the whole industry has seemed to go over the last couple of years. But let's continue with the news, shall we, Jeff?
Yeah. So PlayStation's CEO says it's not giving up on live service games. So PlayStation boss Hideki Nishino has indicated that Sony will continue to back live service games despite a troubled push into the space that has seen numerous canceled projects and studios. That's right. With live service games, it's important to keep providing something on an ongoing basis. The genre itself is relatively new, and I imagine many people are trying out various approaches, so we will intend to continue taking on new challenges within that concept or context. The CEO added, we view live service games as content that attracts users on a global scale, so we intend to continue revitalizing the market through both first party and third party content. We are looking beyond simply promoting new titles and are considering what can be done with older titles over the medium to long term. Since it's announced its intention to develop 10 live service games back in 2022, PlayStation's Games as a Service mission has been marred by turbulent results. Its most high profile misstep was the disastrous launch of 2024's Concord, which was pulled from sale just 2 weeks after launch. Sony also canceled several live services, including one at Bend Studio and Bluepoint Games, which the latter being closed entirely earlier this year. Sony's also $3.7 billion acquisition of Bungie has also been tumultuous, with the company's recent reporting of a $765 million impairment loss relative to Bungie assets. And earlier this month, it ended support for Destiny 2 and later laid off most of its development team. It's been not all bad news, however, as Helldivers 2, developed by Arrowhead Game Studios, was a surprise hit, becoming a PlayStation's fastest selling game of all time and selling more than 15 million copies by the end of 2024. So, I mean, all right. So, Sony seems to be all in on games as a service, yet they've only had one really that is doing anything
Yeah,
because like they have Marathon, but that's not really doing anything. I mean, I don't really see many people playing, Marathon in terms of like, you know, streamers and seeing like the the most played games and all that kind of stuff of what everybody's currently playing. But I mean, they also canceled that Last of Us one. That one got
yes.
canceled. The place or the Spider-Man one that got canceled as well. So at what point is this games as a service movement really going to start for Sony?
I mean, yeah, you have to wonder, don't you?
Like
It's
so far, every single one has failed except for Helldivers, and that wasn't even a new IP.
yeah, that's true. That is true, actually. I mean, look, I'm not against them trying to make live service games to some degree because I think that live service is a huge part of successful multiplayer games these days, and multiplayer games have been an area for the last decade or so where PlayStation has severely lacked an offering in that space from their own studios. What I would say is where it went wrong for them is trying to force every single studio to make a live service game. And then they realized what it actually took to make a successful live service game. And they sort of started cancelling all these things. You know, like we heard directly from Naughty Dog that the reason the Last of Us live service game got cancelled was because they realised that to make it as good as they wanted it to be, it was going to have to be something that they were constantly supporting and
Yeah, but
updating
isn't
and
that the
doing things
DNA
for.
of every live service game? Wouldn't that be something that you look into before you pull the trigger on spending millions of dollars to actually
I
make something?
think I think it would be if you have your own studio and you're coming up with the concept of like this is the kind of game I want to make and you look into all of those things, right? But I think in the case of what happened, at least in my opinion, from my view, what seemed to happen over at PlayStation and Sony was the big boss man Jim Ryan came in and he went, old games old, no one cares about those. Single player games are dying. Live service make all these like tons and tons of money. Every single one of our studios now must make a live service game. And I think that it's another case of the suits not understanding what it takes to make a live service game, trying to force studios that don't have those expertise into making a live service game. And then, obviously, because those studios are being forced into something that they're not as familiar with, they probably recognize along the way that there are many more challenges than they expected, right? And as you said, it's it's worked out that way because the only success they had was Helldivers 2, and Arrowhead isn't even a Sony slash PlayStation owned studio. They were only the publisher on that game. So while they had some control over it as the publisher, with the studio being more independent, they probably had a little bit more freedom to make it the way they wanted to make it because they were the ones with the expertise. Like they understood how to make a good multiplayer game, and
Hmm.
that was the key thing. So yeah, I'm not surprised. Like I was talking to someone the other day and we were talking about Concord, and it's like that's the biggest failure of all time in the history of the industry at this point. And it's like you do have to wonder, as you said, why are they trying to keep persisting on going down this road when at the moment it's cost them probably billions across all of these projects
Yeah,
that have
and
failed.
two studios. I mean, because we had Blue Point that was making a God of War live
Yeah,
service game, and it was one of their studios that only released a PlayStation 5 title, like an actual PlayStation 5
yeah,
first party
and one of
title,
the better ones as
and one of
well.
the better ones. And they're like, yeah, no, you know,
And also, it was the first ever time that they were letting Bluepoint make an original game, and then they just pulled it out from under them. And it's just like,
hmm
surely they had earned the right to see that through and see if it would work. And
yeah,
again, in my mind, I think it's because it comes down to these people in suits. Their job is to make money for their companies as fast as they possibly can. And I think that when there was this initial push to get into live service, they maybe underestimated the ongoing cost that would be involved, or even the initial cost of actually getting something off the ground, you know? Because we know that Sony's development costs are really high even on their single player games.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man was somewhere around $300 million, right?
Yeah.
And it had to sell millions of units just to make a profit. And I imagine that a lot of these live service games probably weren't much different in terms of budget, because Sony has this thing where if it's a first party game, it has to reach a certain quality bar in terms of presentation, in terms of all these different things. And I think that they care more about their reputation in that area than they do about making a game that can actually make money and survive and be successful. You know,
Hmm.
like you could make a really good, you could make an excellent live service game for far less than even $100 million. You know, like, like I don't know how much Helldivers cost them, but I know that it wasn't $300 million. You know, so, so yeah, I think there was an overinvestment in these things, and they seem to be sort of banging their head against a brick wall in an effort to
And
try
see,
and
like
do more of them.
the Spider-Man one looked great, and it's like, well, what are you doing there? You're creating enemies, you're creating bosses, maybe
Yeah,
some like additional levels that are not taking place like in New York. But I mean, if you center that game largely around New York, that city is already built.
yeah, you've already built it. You can
I mean,
reuse the assets.
yeah, like you put up like banners when it's Christmas or whatever the case is, and snow
Yeah,
and stuff like that. But I mean, like
yeah,
it just I don't know. It's such a weird thing for Sony to like go against the grain in regards to like what they've been good at
yeah,
in pursuit
completely.
of in the way that they were going at it. If they were going, okay, we're going to release 2 games as a service and concentrate
Yeah,
on those, then it would
yeah.
have been different. But they're like, oh, we have 10.
And that's kind of my thing. Is like what they should have done is they should have had an internal memo of to all the teams where they're like, "Hey, we would like to make we really want to make strides in multiplayer, and we think the way to do that is through a live service game." And then let the studios that actually want to do that come and pitch you on things. Don't don't lay the hammer down to the studio of you are doing this. Like, yes, I get that you own them, and I get that we have seen situations where too much freedom for a studio isn't necessarily a good thing, but it's a collaborative effort. They have to have realized, Jeff, that like, oh, all of our expertise is in single player cinematic story driven games, and we're now going to try and make all of these people make multiplayer live service games. Like, it's so weird. It's
See,
so
like the
weird.
only one that I could really see pulling it off would be something like Horizon because they've got that open world experience in regards to like
Yeah.
different clans and different factions and all that stuff that kind of makes up those types
Yeah,
of like kind of
absolutely.
like online big world
And
games. But
and you know, they do have that. There is that Horizon multiplayer game that's supposed to be coming out at some point in the future, which
and
is a
that one
little bit
that
like
one
Monster Hunter.
yeah, and that one's certainly not going to get canceled. I mean, look who's running Sony.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So we'll see how that does. But I'm absolutely with you. I think that they went too far in on it. They didn't need to have 10 projects, 2 or 3 at the most. Concentrate on making those the best they can be, and then build from there. That's
Yeah.
that's what they should have done, for sure. But
Alrighty.
let's continue on with the news because we still have a few things to talk about today.
Alrighty. So, Chinese publishing giant Tencent is reportedly in talks to exit some of its investments it previously made in Japanese game development studios. So, Tencent, the world's largest games company, has invested in more than 800 developers worldwide, including stakes in Epic Games, Larian, and Krafton, as well as shares in Ubisoft and many others. It also owns Riot Games and Supercell. According to a report by Bloomberg, however, the company is looking to exit a number of these investments, including those involving Japanese companies. The article specifically cites Marvelous, the Tokyo based studio behind the Monster Hunter Stories, Rune Factory, and Story of Season games, as one of the investments Tencent is in talks to back out of. Tencent is said to be currently evaluating its minority holdings in a number of studios and, in some cases, is willing to sell its stakes back to the original management team, even if it means taking a loss. This doesn't mean Tencent is looking to step away entirely from investment in the Japanese video game industry. However, its report stresses that the company is still assessing which of its investments still promise to be high performers. It also claims that Tencent's investment in marquee studios like Platinum Games and From Software and its parent company Kadokawa are unaffected by this. It's believed that Tencent wants to have a more active role in its investments, where it essentially co produces games with foreign studios rather than simply investing money in them and standing back in a hands off manner. Um, yeah, so like this is them essentially trying to, kind of like offload where they've kind of overspent. Your mic, you're muted.
There we go. It does feel a little bit like, as you said, this is kind of a bit of a correction of, oh, okay, we've overinvested in some areas. Some of these investments aren't paying off in the way that we expected. Let's try and get our way out of those investments now and focus more on the ones that are actually successful for us, which in
Yeah,
the case of Tencent, quite oddly, really, has actually been more with the Western developers. Like, that's where their success has actually come from.
yeah,
Which you wouldn't expect given that they are based over in Asia. You know, you would have thought that they would have a stronger relationship with those Japanese developers
yeah.
and other Asian developers, but they seem to work much better with the Western devs for whatever reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I can see them wanting to offload Marvelous. I mean, they don't make exactly like extremely high selling games, even from a developer or publishing standpoint. Their stuff's mostly around like the Rune Factories and,
Yes.
Monster Hunter Stories, for example. And they haven't done anything with Senra Kuraga in years, despite announcing a brand new game like a long
Yeah.
time ago. Um,
I do have a question, Jeff.
hmm,
Do you think that part of this strategy from Tencent could be like there's obviously been talk for years about someone trying to acquire Ubisoft, and Tencent has already essentially acquired some of Ubisoft anyway. Um, do you think that part of this strategy could be so that they can reinvest this money into a bigger, like, full on acquisition style thing rather than just smaller investments here and there?
well, the report does say that they're wanting more control, and I think that you only really get that when you are like a majority stakeholder and or even just acquiring the company entirely. But I don't know if they would be wanting like the full responsibility of actually, taking on the studio like as its complete owner, when they could essentially just drop out at a moment's notice and they don't have to worry about liquidating or it
That's
being a
true.
PR nightmare. They can basically just say like, oh, hey, we're just going to sell our stocks.
That's
They're
true.
gonna hedge their bets where they feel that they're going to get the most return. And if they're like, okay, well, if our amount is worth here and we're projecting them to be here, if we sell within this gap, we'll profit in the long run. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
but no, I think it's just them kind of like trying to play the safest bet as they possibly can without much financial risk, even though this entire industry right now is just a 100% financial risk on anything that you're doing, whether it's indie or AAA.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Completely agree. I mean, I did. I saw the other day, I don't know if you're aware of this game, Mecha Chameleon. Um,
Oh yeah,
there's, there's,
I've played a couple rounds with Gingy, but my computer can't run it. Um, it when there's like more than like 10 people, it chugs down to like 5 frames. So I'm gonna see if I can get it running
but
on
But Mecha
Steam Deck.
Chameleon, as far as I'm aware, I did a bit of research, and apparently it was made by like two people, and both of those guys are like millionaires now. Because this game has taken the world by storm
And
in the
the thing
last
is,
few
like,
weeks.
the game's only like $4 or $5, depending on where you're getting it. I bought it for like 5.75s
Yeah,
because, like, again, Gingy was like playing with audience members. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. Okay, I'm gonna do that, and I installed it. And the first round went fine, and then all of a sudden it just started chugging down to like. But then that could just be optimization.
it could be. Yeah, it could be for sure. Well, as we always say, if there are any PC companies out there that want to support us here at Analog Stick Gaming and the Gaming Mix podcast, we will talk about your PC. We will review it. If you can provide Jeff with a PC for better coverage purposes, then please feel free to reach out to us.
Absolutely. Speaking of PCs, we had well. We had a very expensive one kind of hit in
Yes.
the market here, and that is Valve has revealed that the price of the Steam Deck ahead of its release. As seen on the official Steam store, the standard Steam machine will come in 4 versions, which are priced as follows. The models will range anywhere between 512 gig storage to 2 terabyte storage, ranging anywhere from about $1,050 all the way up to $1,428. The other 2 models in order are looking at about $1,128 and $1,349. Other than the storage size, both models will have identical specs, though the 2 terabyte model will also be included with 2 extra faceplates, red fabric, and solid walnut. Whereas the recently released Steam controller was sold on a first come, first basis, which led to scalping issues, this time pre orders will be going into a randomized queue. Users will be able to register their interest for any of the Steam Machine models from now until June 25th, which is already passed, at which point all pre-orders will be randomized and placed into a queue. Valve says it hopes this method won't reward bots and will ensure everyone has a fair chance to order one without having to schedule their life around that moment. Users will still be able to pre-order a Steam Machine after June 25th, the window closes, but at this point their order will simply be added to the end of the queue. Valve has confirmed that the price is higher than it had originally planned, with the ongoing surge in component costs affecting matters. Steam Machine, like our other hardware products, is made up of many components that we source from manufacturers around the world, the company said in a blog post. The price at which we sell our hardware is a direct result of the cost of those components. We felt like we had a good understanding of how those costs might change over time when we first started sourcing them for the Steam Machine back in 2023. The understanding was born from the many years of data that we have all had about the evolution of PC hardware prices, primarily that it tends to get cheaper over time as new technology arrives. Over the past year or so, that has changed quickly and significantly, most visibly for RAM and storage components. There are a variety of reasons, all of which are affected by affecting hardware products everywhere. The overall effect is that the original goal for the Steam or the price of the Steam machine is no longer viable. So the prices we're sharing today reflect the state of the world or manufacturing, or more accurately, it reflects the price of components that as we've secured them over the past 6 months. Price wasn't the only thing infected by all of this, ability was as well. There were periods where we found we couldn't source some of our components at all, at any price. More than anything else, this has impacted the number of units we've been able to produce for launch. So, yeah, like this is a massive um, price jump that I think it's going to lend into our next story as well too, and that is where basically I don't think a single piece of hardware is going to be getting released at a price that people are willing to actually pay comfortably. Like even hell, there's I can't remember what brand it is. I want to say it's like Western Digital or Seagate or something, where they've made like an 8 terabyte SSD drive for PlayStation 5, and it's $3,000 US.
That's ridiculous. Like,
At that point,
to,
just buy a
to
PC.
to put that into perspective, I actually have an 8 terabyte drive in my PlayStation. I also have one in my PC, and both of those cost me around sort of $300 to $400, and this was like last year, right? Like
Yeah.
so so that it's
Okay.
crazy. It's absolutely nuts the price of these things, and as you said, Jeff, we're in a situation where I don't think anybody, other than the people who have throwaway money, which is there are those people in the world, and congratulations to them, because they've obviously worked hard for that level of money.
Or
But
not at all.
for most average people, they're never going to be able to justify spending this kind of money on these machines, and on the Steam machine specifically, what I will say, which people are maybe overlooking slightly, is not just about the price, but the Steam machine is also not as powerful as they initially advertised it to be. And the tests in reviews and things like that have basically said, yeah, this thing is less powerful than the current base consoles. So it's less powerful than a PS5, it's less powerful than a Series X.
Hmm.
And it's like, so you're talking about a machine that's less powerful but costs more money than both, even though both of them have had their prices increased, and
Yeah.
one even had another increase recently.
Yeah, let's dive into that one there. Lenovo has said that the price of memory will likely never return to the level seen before prices began rising rapidly around a year ago. The electronics firm made the comments during a presentation by Executive Director Martin Heigl at the ISC conference in Germany this week, as reported by Computer Base. Heigl reportedly told the attendees that DRAM and NAND prices will not return to their previous levels for a long time, even after significantly increased production capability is implemented. The Lenovo exec said that prices will likely never fall back to the level seen a year ago. However, the never comment was reported exaggerated, and Heigl is likely referring to the next 5 years and a little beyond. The comments made in the same week that Microsoft claimed that memory prices have increased by more than 2.5 times this year alone, and that it expects another doubling by the end of the year. Microsoft raised the prices of its Xbox consoles this week by between $100 and $150. Apple also raised prices across its hardware products, with both companies citing the ongoing component crisis. The sharply rising cost of memory is widely attributed to demand for AI data centers, which major vendors signing long-term deals with AI firms. However, as spotted by WCCF Tech, an executive at technology firm Micron blamed Apple for its alleged role in the crisis. Without directly naming Apple, Micron's chief business operator, Sumit Sadana, claimed that Micron had been informed a couple of its customers, who were being very aggressive with pricing, that their strategy was not constructive. And then earlier this week, Valve announced that their Steam machine would retail for over $1,000. And this kind of leads us to kind of like one of the big talking points, essentially, is that we're like 2 years away from the next generation consoles, and if anyone thinks that they're going to be under $1,000 US.
Yeah, people are crazy. Like,
Yeah.
if they if they think these things are gonna, the only way that they might be less than $1,000 US is if they delay the next generation entirely. But at that point, you have to delay it by about 5 years, I
Yeah.
think.
And then you have games that are likely being made specifically for that, and then you get them downgraded again. This was the exact same way that the Series X and
Mm.
PS5 generations kind of started. And so you have another one of these transitional, um, you know, generations essentially
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on. Like the only way that I could see like a next gen console being dirt cheap is
Yeah.
if Microsoft goes, "Hey, we're releasing the the Xbox Helix, and it's going to be like 1,200 USD, right? But then we
Hmm.
also have the cloud Helix console for 250 USD, and
Yeah.
and
Maybe.
it's entirely cloud, so that you
Yeah.
don't have to
True.
worry about most of the components."
True. That could be one way of doing it for sure. Yeah, that could be one way of doing it. I mean, obviously there is the other thing of like on consoles specifically, generally speaking, especially at the start of a generation, manufacturers will lose a bit on the console in the hope of making it up on software sales. And then those prices will rise slightly over time as they like their
Yeah.
margins will change and then they usually come back down later in the generation, right? So it would also depend on, are any of these manufacturers willing to take a massive cut and loss on these machines in order to kind of get market share, you know?
Well, we're already seeing them go against that.
Precisely,
You know, like
precisely, and
Xbox
that's
is
the thing.
already struggling, and you're telling your customers, "Hey, another 100, $150, please." Oh, you weren't
Yeah,
buying our console to begin with?
I know, it's crazy. It's absolutely
Like,
crazy, and it makes me think that we probably should delay the next generation. Like, obviously, the original report was that at least this time last year, the expectation was that the next Xbox was actually going to be out in next fall 2027.
yeah,
I think that now is probably not till at least 2028. But even then, I think it's too early because if you're bringing out a machine in 2028, you have to start manufacturing it and getting dev kits to developers and things in sort of the second half of 2027, and the costs are still going to be very high then. You know, it's like
well, they're supposed to
I don't,
double again by the end of this year.
yeah. So I think we're in a sort of lose-lose situation, but I do agree with one of those executives that you mentioned in that whole piece, where the RAM prices, the memory prices will probably never be as low as they were before, because once prices go up like this and companies realize, oh, people are still buying them anyway, those prices will come back down a bit when the manufacturing changes.
Yeah.
But if they realize, oh, we can actually charge more than we
Yeah,
were
so instead
before,
of 300 times the price it was 2 years ago, it'll be 150 times the price that it was 2 years ago.
yeah, and that's always the way of things, right?
Yeah.
Yes, supply versus demand definitely has a thing to do with it, and if you sort out the supply chain issue, that will definitely bring prices down significantly. But that 8 terabyte drive, for example, is still going to be like $1,000 instead of $3,000. You know,
Hmm.
it's not going to be the $400 to $500 that you could get it for before, because they know they can charge more for it. So yeah, it's a very awkward situation. I wouldn't want to be someone who was producing and manufacturing and trying to sell hardware right now, because I think the majority of people are not in a place where they can afford to spend this kind of money on hardware.
Well, yeah, like was
Uh,
it MSI just like release pricing for their new console, handheld console, and that thing's like over 2 grand or something?
yeah, yeah. So it's absolutely insane. And you know, our buddy Keith Mitchell over at the Outer Haven, I was talking to him the other day, and he said the craziest thing about the Steam machine is that for about $200 more, you can actually get a much more capable PC. So at that point, why would you not? I know that building your own PC is scary, but there's enough guides and stuff out there now that even a beginner can build a PC. Like, it is, you know, it is possible to do. And I think that that's the route we're going to see people going down, because they're going to be getting their own parts as cheaply as they can because they can shop around to different manufacturers and different places. They might buy the occasional thing secondhand or something like that. You know, it's. I think that's the way things are going to go, because people, if someone can afford to spend $1,000 on a Steam machine, they're the kind of person that can afford to spend $1,500 on a much better PC. You know,
Mhm.
and that's the thing, is like, for the Steam machine to be successful, it had to be like $700 at the most. You know, like, and it probably would have been in a different situation. Like, Valve confirmed themselves that this is not the price they wanted this machine to be, but it's the world we find ourselves in, and unfortunately, it's the fault of these big tech AI companies, right? Like, and that isn't going anywhere right now. So we'll have to just keep an eye on it and see what happens in the next few years.
Yeah. All right.
So where do we want to go next?
Our last story of the day.
Oh yes,
A new report has disputed that Rockstar was planning to release a physical version of Grand Theft Auto 6 this holiday season, including a disc, following an initial digital-only launch. Earlier this week, Rockstar kicked off pre-orders for the huge sequel and simultaneously confirmed that GTA's boxed version will simply contain a download code in a case, disappointing those who were hoping for a proper physical release. Those fans later received some hope via a report claiming that physical copies of Grand Theft Auto 6, which include a disc, were planned for December. However, this claim has now been disputed. Citing its own source with knowledge of plans, The Hollywood Reporter claims that at this point in time, there are no plans whatsoever for a Grand Theft Auto 6 physical disc to be printed, not at launch or not even months after. The publication claims that a Rockstar support email circulated on social media this week, stating that users will be able to acquire a physical copy during the following months, has been misinterpreted and refers to the code in a box version. The decision to launch GTA with 6 without a disc version is likely influenced by various factors, including Rockstar's desire to avoid leaks. Shipping without a disc will also theoretically give the studio more time to work on the game leading up to its market or to its launch and result in higher margins on launch sales. Now, we've also got other Grand Theft Auto news as well. Is have you seen? So we'll talk about it all in kind of one go. Have you seen what you get on just that $100
I
or eighty
have.
dollar version to the $100 version?
I
Like you
have,
basically
yes.
get the game for $100 and you get like a very elaborate demo essentially for $80 that locks like a ton of shops and vehicles and all sorts of stuff. Like basically,
Yeah.
and I was talking about this with people online saying like the reason they're doing this is because the $100 version is the version that they are talking about when they talk about Grand Theft Auto. That's the version that they were like, we're going to
Yeah.
charge 100 USD for this. And they're like, oh, well, that's crazy. How will they ever blah blah? Oh, well, we're going to release an $80 version that people can just get into. So that's that low price point. My guess is that they always wanted to charge $100 for this game, and this is how they went about it.
So I agree with you, and I think the reason they went about it this way is because the world is in a different place currently than when they've previously released GTA games. And what I mean by that is the cost of living right now in most countries in the world is incredibly higher than it has been in many, many, many years. The people do not have as much disposable income, and so I think that Rockstar probably think to themselves, yes, this game is worth $100. And they're probably right, let's be honest, because they have always, every time they release a GTA, they always push the price of games up, which is why people have been waiting to see what their price would be, because it will sort of affect the standard in the years ahead. But as I said, they're in a situation where even they must realize if we only have $100 version of this game, there are so many people that want to play this game who've waited over a decade to play this game that will never be able to that won't be able to afford it. You know, I also speculate that maybe the $80 version is also there for people that are more concerned with GTA Online, which we obviously don't know much
Mhm.
about right now. But it could be like, hey, GTA Online's not going to be free, but you can get it just by buying the standard version of the game, and therefore you're not really losing anything because all of that other content is single player only based, right? I think it could be a situation like that as well. This could be them allowing people who only really want the online a cheaper way into the online
Yeah.
without giving out for free.
Like the thing is, like,
Yeah,
I understand including like certain cars or certain costumes and stuff like that,
yeah,
but they're locking like actual shops
yeah.
in in the game
What I
for that
will
version.
say, there's one thing, and it's not a pushback, but I just think people are maybe misinterpreting it. Like right now, we don't know, right? But they're locking specific shops. But that doesn't mean there aren't going to be other shops in the game that are not
Oh,
locked.
no, for sure. It's just those are that's a completely different type of closure of content because like
I agree.
it's not stuff like, pre-order now and get the vengeance pack or something like
Yeah,
that or
yeah,
whatever, right?
yeah.
Like those are different things because those are things that don't have a physical place in the game essentially. So
I
if you're going
agree.
to be driving past like Tom's discount
And
t-shirts
then
and
it's
you
like
can't
you
get
can't
into
come in
it,
here because you can't. Yeah,
yeah,
like that is the problem. And also they have also, and we've seen games do this before, but they have unlocked some mission, like a few missions behind this Ultimate Edition as well. What I will say on the case of the missions is we've seen games do this before, and I wouldn't be shocked if 6 months, a year after launch, they go, okay, those missions are now free for everybody. You know, like they have done, like other
I
games
don't
have done
I
things like
think
that in the
like
past.
I don't know. I think they'll just be like, "Oh, hey, if you want those missions, just buy the digital upgrade pack for,"
Yeah,
and they'll probably charge $30 for the pack instead of
true,
20, and then
true,
have it where if you earlier adopted, you save the $10.
true. But yeah, I actually think they would have had less. I think they were probably worried about what the reaction to the $100 price point would be. But I actually think if they had come out with one version that had all that stuff in, and they were just like, yeah, this is GTA 6, and we're going to be $100, and that was the only version you could buy, I think some people would have been like, hey, that's a little bit expensive, but most people would have accepted it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think it's
Most,
most people are seeing the difference right now and they're going, well, there's pointless buying the $80 version because it's less
precisely,
game,
precisely.
right?
So yeah, I get the controversy around it, and look, I'm not against deluxe versions of a game, ultimate editions, things like that. But when they lock certain things, it comes across as a little bit scummy, let's say. For example, the ultimate editions I like of games, and and you know, things like that is like when they're like, hey, buy the ultimate edition for an extra $20 or whatever, and you will also get all of the DLC for the game. Like, that's a good deal, you
Yeah,
know?
where you get like the season passes or all that kind of stuff. But like, again, like these are physical locations in the game.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I do have, I take some issue with it. What I would say is, I think they would have been better off just rip that band-aid off and say, hey, we've got one version of the game and it's $100. Because I think if that was the case, people would be like, yeah, it's GTA. Like, most people are gonna buy that $100 version anyway, right? So it's it's a weird it's a weird thing, and I think it really does come from the time we're in right now, because people cannot afford things as easily. They might not be able to afford things when the game comes out and stuff like that. But it does bring me to a question that I wanted to ask you, because I've seen a lot of conversation around the fact that pre-orders went up for the game, and as far as we know, the pre-order numbers are actually quite big. But it's brought up that debate again between people, and I know my opinion on it, which I'll share in a minute, but I want your opinion. What is the point of pre-ordering a digital game?
I mean, here's the thing. If it comes with if pre-ordering the game comes with lucrative items that are only available through a pre-order, I get that. But I don't think there's any exclusive um, pre-order content for this game at all.
I would have to find out. I think there might be two things that you get from pre-orders. One
Yeah.
is like a one is like a costume pack, and then the other thing is, I think you get like a month free of GTA Plus, which is their
Mm.
online subscription type of thing. My argument for pre-orders, even in the digital landscape, is because of the cost of living and how the world is today. What if someone has the spare money right now?
Yeah, but don't they
Where,
only charge you at a certain point leading up to it though? I don't think they charge you right off the
so it
bat.
depends. So it depends on the platform.
Oh, okay.
If you're on PlayStation, they charge you immediately.
Okay.
And if you're on Xbox, they don't charge you until I think a week before the game comes out.
Mm.
So it does depend on the platform. But what I would say is, if there are people that can afford it right now, who know that they might not be able to afford it when the game comes out,
Yeah.
why would they not pre-order it? You know, like,
Well, I saw one guy pre-order like 10,000 copies. He's like, I'm gonna sell these for like $500 a piece when the game comes out. Like, dude, are you kidding me?
yeah. And then on the digital only thing, because we mentioned the lack of a physical
Yeah.
edition there, I actually think it's really clever, and I'm not surprised that Rockstar are doing it for two reasons. One, digital only helps them avoid leaks and breaking street dates and stuff like that, right? But two, and this has been brought up by many analysts as well, but I think people do forget it. The vast majority of game sales now across all platforms are digital only. Like, the
Well, yeah.
percentage that is
I
physical
mean,
is
go
very
into
small.
go into any one of your like retailers, like not specialty stores, retailers,
Yeah.
and their selection of games is like down to like 4 feet per platform now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like if you go onto like the Xbox store, the PlayStation store, and I get it, there's tons of shovelware and all this other garbage and all this kind of stuff. But like maybe 8% of games that are released for that platform are physical.
Yeah, yeah, precisely. And it's I always put it this way to people because I'm more familiar with the Xbox numbers. Xbox, at least here in the UK, and I believe in the majority of regions, is over 90% digital, and I believe PlayStation is somewhere in the high 80
Hmm.
percentages of digital sales. And with no disrespect to those people that like physical, because I understand the love of physical and because it feels more like you actually own the
Well,
thing.
I mean, yeah, it's still just like a license on the disc and
It
stuff.
is
It can be revoked at any time. The moment you toss that into a console that has internet connection, boom, you lose it. Um,
precisely.
but like the
So
thing
it's
about it is well, where was I going with it? Crap, I lost it. Um, crap, I had a really good point. I mean, even like there's a lot of games that are just not releasing. Um,
yeah,
oh wait, yeah, okay. Here, my point was okay. So some people are like, "Well, I like having a physical game because then I can put it on my shelf and look at it." You have the case, you fucking
yeah.
idiot. You're
You're
putting it
still
on the
gonna get
shelf.
the
Like,
case.
are you going to have the disc? Like, do you have the disc like sitting out there basically going, "Yep, there's my physical disc. I own it." Like the case
Yeah,
can still go on the shelf.
absolutely, absolutely. I And don't get me wrong, I was an early adopter of digital games, and I know that there are concerns around digital preservation and things like that. But
Yeah.
as you said, once digital became a thing and internet connections for consoles became a thing, physical wasn't really physical anyway, because they can revoke that activation license that's on the disc from you at any time. So, so it's kind of like physical as people knew and loved it from back in the day, where the entire game was on the disc and you never had to connect to online and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That type of physical is already dead. Like, whether people want to accept it or not, it just is. And like, discs existed because for the last 10 years discs have existed because there was a section of people that either don't have internet access or have very limited internet access, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But the reality is that percentage is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Oh yeah. Like I don't
What
expect I don't expect the PlayStation 6 or the next Xbox to come standard with the disk drive. I think that'll be
completely agree.
a separate utility that you attach to it.
Yeah.
They've already teased that. I mean, the current PlayStation has a
I
detachable
mean,
disk drive.
even on the Xbox point of view, we saw leaks that they were trying to figure out a way of allowing you to turn your disc games into digital licenses on your digital library so that you never would have to use the disc again, you know? So
Hmm.
it's like they're trying to move those remaining sort of 10% of people away from physical because the reality is, not to be horrible to those people, but if you don't move away from physical, eventually you're just not going to be playing video games anymore.
Well,
like,
yeah, and like if you're only playing like physical games and no digital whatsoever, you're missing out on hi.
on a cat's tail.
Yeah, you're missing out on like a good chunk of games that will never see a physical release.
Absolutely, absolutely,
I mean,
completely agree
and
with
people
you.
and everyone's like, "Oh, Steam's like the dominating platform. It's the best platform." Blah 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 blah. It's all digital. The whole
Yeah,
fucking platform is
and
digital.
no one complains about that, right?
No, and you look at and if you look in like in your terms of service or whatever, it says specifically that Valve can like remove a game from your library for no
Yeah,
reason whatsoever.
yeah. And the funny thing is, on Steam, they don't even treat it like the consoles, like where with the consoles, once you own the game, you effectively own the game digitally, even if they delist the game. On Steam, a developer can choose to delist the game and take it out of everyone's library at the same time. So it's like, you know, there are
Yeah.
bad things about all digital. I'm not gonna say there isn't,
Hmm.
but the reality is we're now at the point where it doesn't make business sense for any of these companies to invest really heavily into a physical version of a game. And as I said, with something like Rockstar in particular, I do think part of the reason they're doing this is to kind of protect the game as much as possible and make it harder to pirate and make it, so that it's going to be really difficult to, like, you're not going to be able to break the street date on this. Like, there will be there will be a select few people in the world that get to play this video game early for the early batch of reviews, and they will probably be taken out to a special event somewhere in the world for 3 or 4 days and play the entire game, you know? And it's like,
Hmm.
other than that, like, yeah, you're that's it. That's how it is. That's the way the industry's going. And I don't really have a problem with it. I think the majority of people don't have a problem with it. I think we just need to accept that why are companies going to why are companies going to invest the money into making physical versions of a game if nobody is really buying those physical versions of games anymore?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it as well too, like there's um the majority of the games that we're getting right now. Oh, I just lost it. I just lost it
Oh, that's a
entirely.
shame.
Um, no, with like the one thing that I like about digital for my end of it as well is like I only need one copy of Resident Evil 9 in this house, and it works on two different Xboxes under two
That's
different
very
accounts.
true. I
I don't
didn't
need to
even think
buy
about that.
because there's
Yeah,
tons of people that are like they're buying like they have two Xboxes in the house
yeah,
and they're buying
yeah.
two copies of the games and they're unaware of game share. Like it's not something that's really touted, because like
Absolutely.
I
And
was
like,
talking with, tons of people that are like, yeah, we have to buy two copies. And I'm like, you don't have to. You never did.
yeah. And it's like, imagine like people who have kids, I always tout game share because both of the consoles
Yeah.
actually do it. And I
And
think,
if you have game share and you have a friend who you can game share with, then Grand Theft Auto's, the US
half the
price
price.
is only $50 for each person.
Yeah.
Unless they do like account lock it, which I could see them doing,
That
but
would be that see that would be something that I think people would seriously complain about though, because at the end of the day, like, game share is an official feature. It's not like it's a
yeah, see,
workaround,
we couldn't get game share working on PlayStation for Final Fantasy VII remake back in the day on PS4. I just couldn't get it
Oh
working.
really? Oh
Yeah,
wow.
it was weird.
That's a surprise. That is a surprise. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on the GTA situation, and we'll see how it goes. I know that I will definitely be playing the game either way, and yeah, we'll see. But talking about playing games, You've been playing quite a few things, Jeff, and I've also played a couple
Kind
of
of.
things I can talk about. But talk to me about things that you've been playing.
Sure. Let me get to my list here so I'm not missing out on anything. Podcast. Selecting buttons. I've played a little bit of the Star Fox remake. I had picked it up. I'm only about, I think, 3 or 4 missions in, but I know the game's only like an hour and some long before you start going back and playing like the different routes. Because like I did a thing where I failed one mission, and then I went back and replayed it, and then I succeeded, and then it gave me different options for what the next mission would be. So there's like a decent amount of replayability there. There's also like the medals to collect and whatnot. I like the presentation of what the game looks like. I think it looks really good. Um, but like I'd never played Star Fox. I was aware of it. I think I might have even played like little bits and pieces of it here and there. I kind of wish that this was a remake of Star Fox Adventures instead, so that there was a little more meat on the bone. But no, like what I've played of it so far is pretty decent. I do kind of wish that they would have expanded on certain aspects of the game to make the missions a little bit more meatier than basically what it is. Because some missions are just like, you know, 4 minutes long or something like that, and there's like 6 or 7 missions or something like that throughout the game. If you just go through it once, and I
Yes.
think some people may just go through it once and be like, "This game's so short." But I mean, again, there are the different routes. Like if I would have saved Falco from getting shot down in the first mission. Like
Yeah.
there's something else that you can do later on or whatever. So I'll probably end up going through and doing like those different routes and doing everything like that way. But visually, it looks really nice. I think the art direction changes that they've kind of made have been smart. I think the characters look fairly decent. um like I think the characters could look a little better. But overall I think it does look really really good, and I do like that Nintendo did remake this game again for Switch 2, because like it does look really good. I think that
Yeah.
it it gives a good measuring stick for where the general consensus is for a Star Fox game, if they need to
Yeah.
make a new one. Or maybe they have made a new one and it's been sitting on the in the back for 2 years. Who knows?
Maybe. Maybe.
This is Nintendo.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I've liked it so far. I'm gonna continue to go through it. It's one of those ones I'm gonna take the work and mostly play kind of apart from anything that I've got codes for and whatnot, because I'm still trying to get some codes for a couple things, because was it Dragon's Dogma or Dark Arisen released last week, or this week or whatever. Like it's just released recently. So I want to jump on that because I do like the base game of that. Um, so like right, because right now I don't have too much going on in terms of like what I'm playing for codes. So like
I
it was one of
mean,
those ones that I
I'm playing a fairly big one for us again. I am slightly delayed at the moment because I didn't do much last week due to the heat here in the UK.
yeah.
But I am playing The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales, which, thank you to Square Enix, I was given a code for it to do a review for us. And if you don't know, Adventures of Elliot was made by the Octopath Traveler developers, but this is not a turn based game. It's more like an old school Zelda game.
Oh,
And
nice.
and it yeah, it basically plays almost exactly like an old school Zelda. It's this is this is a game where they've said, what if Square made a Zelda game? And to the point where you've got this annoying little fairy kind of thing that follows you around, who talks too much, and you can
You're
turn down how
seeking
much
down the
she
quad
talks.
force of power.
And yeah, it's there are obviously, with it being the Millennium Tells, there is a time travel element to it, and there are different like variations of the map and things, but they do a lot of modern things to make this kind of action adventure game more palatable than the old school ones. Because, for example, your temples and stuff like that, your places where you upgrade, excuse me, are actually marked on the map. So you can go and find them quite easily. You can fast travel around this map quite quickly as well.
Hmm.
And then you've got multiple different kind of weapons that you can use, and you've got ways to modify the weapons, which is really how you change and impact your playstyle. So I forget what they call them. Oh, it's magicite. Magicite is the what they call them, and it's basically like, think of them as gems that you put into weapons, okay? And you slot these into whatever your weapon is, and each weapon will have different magicite that can be used on it, and it will do things like increase the attack rate of the weapon, or might give you additional hits. When you press the button, it might make the swipe of your sword travel further, and it does different things that can really impact how you kind of play the game in terms of combat.
Hmm.
There is some puzzle solving, but what I would say is, when it comes to puzzle solving, at least so far from what I've played of the game, it's very basic. Like, there hasn't been one puzzle in this game where I find myself going, "Oh, what do I do?" It's the
Hmm.
kind of thing where you look at it for, if you look at it for 60 seconds, 2 minutes, you're gonna figure out what the solution is quite easily. But what I do like is some of the magicite that you can use, and different spells you can unlock through your fairy friend actually allows you to skip certain puzzles, or
Okay.
solve certain puzzles in a different way, which essentially makes them skippable, and it's quite clever. It's quite clever in that regard. But yeah, what I would say is that, there is full voice acting here in the game. There's a lot of story. Whether the story captures you or not is going to be a different thing, because
Hmm.
you play as Elliot, who is literally an adventurer. It's like he's an adventurer. He goes on adventures. Is in the name of the game, really.
Yeah.
And it's in that HD 2D visual style that the developers made famous with Octopath Traveler and their other games. And I really, really do like it. What I can say so far is I would definitely recommend it to anyone that is an old school Zelda fan. But most of all, this game is going to be one that is a perfect first Zelda like video game for kind of, for the slightly younger audience, and for anyone that doesn't have access to a Nintendo console, honestly. Like,
Hmm.
if you've never played a Zelda, this is a decent Zelda game. There's some fun boss fights in here, and the boss fights can actually get reasonably tricky.
Now, is there a jump button, or is it just like where you just go up to a platform and then it auto jumps for you?
So it's a bit finicky, because there is a jump, but it's weird. It's
Mhm.
like you like yeah, it does also do the auto jump thing. So it's strange, but like, a very Zelda thing is, like, you have bombs in this game as well, and you're using bombs to open up different pathways. And one thing I do like is there's some verticality on the map, and you can get up above enemies, and you can literally drop a bomb down onto them.
Okay.
And just like, so there is verticality in combat as well. Yeah, I really like the game. I haven't finished it yet, so I can't say what score I'm going to give it, but I'm fairly impressed so far, and it isn't at all what I expected it to be. Because I will say, like, it was one I remember seeing trailers for and kind of being like, oh, that's cool, another game from those developers. But I never really looked into it too much,
Yeah,
if
I
that
didn't
makes
know it
sense.
was real time. I thought it was another turn-based one.
Yeah, yeah. So it's completely real time. It's action adventure RPG Zelda like, I suppose. I would call it a Zelda like.
Yeah, it's just like running around and the enemies are just there, and you just like
Yes.
punch at them with
Yeah.
your sword or spear or whatever
Yeah.
weapon you have really equipped.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will say that the enemy variety isn't the best. Like there is some variety, but you do encounter the same enemies quite regularly, and
Hmm.
even when you're traveling to the different sort of time periods, you still encounter effectively the same enemies. But the combat's fun, and they give you enough options in terms of weapons. Like you can have a spear, you can have a sword, you can have a boomerang, you can have a bow, bow and arrow. Like there's different weapons that play very differently in combat, and that does make it fun. Like the combat here is fun. Where the challenge comes in, I would say where most of the challenge comes in is sort of boss fights or like combat encounters where you're dealing with multiple enemies at once. That
Hmm.
those can be a little bit more challenging because you have like ranged enemies, you have more brutish enemies, you have quicker enemies. But yeah, like the boss fights are really impressive. And yeah, I what I would say, obviously I haven't finished it, but I am keen to see more of this kind of game from this developer, and it's nice to see them moving away from turn based and showing off what they can actually do with a more action adventure real time gameplay style.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. But yeah, so I would recommend it to people so far, but obviously I can't give an exact score. I'm hoping to have the review up on Analog Stick Gaming within the next week, I would imagine. Like, I'm not sure exactly how long the game is, but I would
Well, I was seeing
imagine that.
full game is about on this one playthrough is 35 hours.
Okay, okay, so yeah, so within about a week, I should be able to have the review up, hopefully. And yeah, I look forward to talking about it more. And who knows, maybe I can even get my buddy over there, Jeff, some access to the game, so that he can also play it. Because I do think this is one you'd enjoy, Jeff.
Yeah, no, it definitely looks good. It definitely it addresses I think some of the issues that have kept me from getting on with the other ones that are like Octopath Traveler and stuff, which I did enjoy, but
That's
I
fair.
just didn't want another one of those experiences that just felt exactly the same because it just
Yeah,
felt like
that's
I was
fair.
retreading on that
That's
kind of
fair
stuff.
for sure, for sure. But what else have you played, Jeff, this week?
Um, I received review code for the Skatari race in Warhammer 40k Darktide. I've been playing a good chunk of that, diving back in there, and even playing with Kelvin as well too. And
Yes.
the Skatari race um, is pretty fun. I do like it. I've always been a huge fan of like the Adeptus Mechanicus. So seeing one of their soldier grunts, which is the Scutari soldiers, the Scutari Prime or Alpha Primes, whatever. Um, they've been they've been such a cool race because again they're like humanity where they've kind of like um, scaled back on their humanity to kind of give into the machine god. So they're like, peeling skin off and replacing it with circuitry and metal and all this other kind of stuff. And That stuff's always been fun. And so they lean into that. Like you in the base game, you would make a character from like these prisoners, and in the DLC, when you're choosing to make a member of the Scutari, you're actually just a volunteer from this group of Adeptus Mechanicus soldiers, and you kind of
Wow.
like volunteer. So, and you pick which forge world you're from and stuff. And the one thing I like is that you can change the voice, but also the type of modulation that the voice has. So, like, I kind of went as close to like a Valley Girl as I could, which was kind of funny. And Calvin really liked the voice. He's like, "Yeah, I love the voice you picked." And
Nice.
when we were playing with like another team of like other Skitari, they sounded like entirely different, like oh, entirely different. And they've got a bunch of different abilities, things from like an AoE attack, which is built up through this thing called the motor engine. And basically, the more charges you have, the more powerful it is. And there's also like a claw attack. And I'm going to be taking a look at some of the other builds and stuff because I've only unlocked those two so far. But I've played probably around, I don't know, about 6 or 7 runs of the game. And there's also like the relic events, where you're basically collecting relics as you go along, and then you're seeing like the two branches of choices that you get and where players have been putting their relics in. And one's winning by like 25 million. So like I think they're gonna win. I think
Oh
that's in the
wow.
bag. Um, but it's fun. Like I love Darktide, and like I reached out to see if I can get code for the previous classes because I missed those. So I want to try the Artavitas or Artavides or whatever with the dog. I want to try
Hmm.
that because that looked really really cool. But yeah, they've added a bunch of stuff since I've stopped
Because
playing it originally.
I remember we played it a bit, and I did like that original game. So yeah, maybe I'll
Yeah,
have to
they've
jump
added
back into it as well.
they've added a bunch of new maps. They've added some new classes as well. They've added like expeditions and stuff like that, which are like I look almost like a roguelike mode. I haven't dived into those lately. The only thing that's sort of weird um is when you're playing with the base classes, you have the shops where you go and you spend your money on outfits and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
the way that you get outfits here is by completing certain challenges now. Like you don't have to buy them, you just have to complete the challenge. And
Oh.
most of those things, it'll be like, okay, complete this entire challenge set. But then there's like a grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 version, where it's like, get to this level, get to this level, get to this level. There's also a deluxe edition that gets you some pretty cool outfit stuff as well. Um, but no, the one thing I like is that this class does feel kind of different than the other classes, just because like you are a lot more vulnerable because like again like you're not this like big beefy kind of character or whatever. You're like these like kind of vulnerable tech priest kind of things.
Yes.
um because like again like the Adeptus Mechanicus have all sorts of different factions within themselves. Like they're also like the only faction that's really allowed to kind of have like their own religion essentially, because they worship the machine god. um so like there's lots of talks about the Omnissiah and all that kind of stuff, and less about
Yeah.
the Emperor.
For sure. For
But
sure.
no, it's a good expansion in
Good.
terms of like the character and stuff.
I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that. I have also been playing something else. Well, at least a little bit of something else, which I'll be writing about over on the Outer Haven in the next couple of days, so look out for that. But here's a sneak preview of a preview that I did for Resonance: A Plague Tale Legacy, where I got to play about 2 hours of the game,
Okay.
two different chapters, chapter 5 and chapter 6. I can't talk too much about chapter 6 just because there's major spoilers there that they don't want us to go into. But you play in Resonance in Resonance of Plague Tale Legacy, you play as a brand new character called Sophia. This is set before the previous Plague Tale game, like many years before. And from what I can gather, obviously I don't have full context right now, but you're looking around this island to try and basically discover some kind of secret, right? And the game feels very much like Tomb Raider in many ways,
Hmm.
in the sense that there's a much bigger focus on combat than the previous Plague Tale games, but the combat is far superior because Sophia has actually been trained with a sword, and you can kind of do like a light attack. There's like a charged attack. There's a little dagger you can use. You can stun enemies and do these really brutal, like finishing moves as well.
Yeah.
And then there are different like abilities that you can unlock that you will charge up by sort of attacking and blocking and parrying different things. And these abilities are really cool because you can like you have because basically it appears as though Sophia, through her ancestry, has some sort of powers, and she's connected to Theseus, who you may know from like Greek mythology, right? And you can like have skills where you will do multiple hits to an enemy because you'll move quickly around them, things like that. You can like throw them into other enemies. There's a good enemy variety as well. There are ranged enemies that you can pull down with like a grappling hook kind of rope, where instead of having the slingshot, you're now slinging this thing and pulling the enemy in towards you. And then you've got like enemies with sword and shield, you've got enemies with spears, you've got more brutish, bigger enemies. You have the typical thing of some attacks being sort of unblockable, so you have to dodge them because they appear by red and all these kind of things. But it felt really good to play. And what impressed me was there's a good amount of puzzle solving using several different mechanics within the puzzle solving as well. So you're not just like some of the mechanics obviously repeat because they need to, but you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. And you'll have certain puzzles where all of the different mechanics you use within puzzles will actually connect to each other, and you'll have to do like lining these lasers up on this little ball that you have to light up these crystals on a wall, while also using a light to track a walkway that you need to do, and things like that. It's
Hmm.
very clever, and it is one that I would have actually had my preview done already, but again, couldn't actually sit down and write it last week, unfortunately. So I've been writing it over this weekend, so it should be out within the next couple of days. Other than that, I haven't been playing anything else, but I am aware, Jeff, that you've been playing something that you're not the biggest fan of, and I think we should probably talk about that.
I missed most of what you said, but I'm assuming just talk about the last thing. It went all digital
Yes.
scattering and stuff, so I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah.
Um,
I was basically saying there's a game you've been playing that you're not much of a fan of. So let's talk
well,
about
the thing
that.
is, like, I'm a fan of the game. I just don't think that the way they went about like releasing it was the best way, and that is the Dead or Alive 6 last round. And so Dead or Alive 6 on its own is a very good game. The story mode is a bit fragmented and whatnot, and I definitely don't suggest bringing your save file over because it won't pop achievements for this new version of the game. So you kind of have to, you know, watch out there. If you're looking for achievements, you'll have to kind of re go over that. But the thing that sucks about the game is that there is no upgrade path for existing users. So if you own Dead or Alive 6 already and you own all of the expansion characters already, there's really nothing here for you because I mean, yeah, you're going to be getting some additional characters and all that kind of stuff and whatnot when they eventually release and new stages and the new lighting on the stages, which it's only right now on one stage. But like if you were not a fan of that game and its net code back then, there's nothing fixed here. There's no crossplay, so you're still just playing with like your same platform, but only for that game. It's not crossplay to the original Dead or Alive 6, and then there's also no rollback netcode. So like, why does this version exist if it's not going to fix the issues of the previous game? Like it's not adding any modes. Like this isn't Dead or Alive 5 last round where it added a whole bunch of shit and it had an upgrade path. This version has no upgrade path. If you own Mai and what's her name, the other character from SNK, if you own both of those characters,
Oh yeah. Hmm.
they don't work because the licensing has to re-up. So you have to buy them again.
Oh wow.
And they weren't even available at the time when I did the review to even buy. So I wasn't able to repurchase my at all. Um, and like it's such a weird release that doesn't really do anything because yeah, they announced that Dead or Alive 7 was coming. And I think this was like, well, if we announce Dead or Alive 7, we have to have something. So let's just do like, and again, like it's a better looking version than Dead or Alive 6, but not by much. Like it's not really
Yeah.
that much better looking. Like it's
Yeah.
still the Katana engine. Um, like, and again, like the new lighting and stuff on the new map looks great. Like it looks fantastic. It makes it adds like reflections and like all sorts of like little bells and visual bells and whistles that you would want, but
Yeah.
it's not worth buying the game again. Like it's like $50 Canadian, I think. It's like 53.99 or something.
That's crazy.
And yeah, it includes, and the thing is like it includes like the other five characters or whatever, which is cool. It includes five new outfits for some of the characters, but why not a new outfit for every character? Why didn't they? And like, yeah, it's compatible with a lot of the old DLC, but not all of it, and they're not saying what's really compatible with it. Like if they had released this and released maybe like one of the several, because like that game had over $1,000 of DLC. If they would release like one of the major packs, or maybe it was just compatible with all the DLC, like if it came with all the DLC, like if it was like a complete definitive edition and it was
Yeah.
just that and came with everything, then yeah, this would be 100% worth buying. But if you already own Dead or Alive 6 and you're fine waiting until 7 comes out and you don't care about the new characters that they're going to be adding to this new version of the game, there's not much really to buy here. You can get Core Fighters if you want to see what it's like, and that's a free version of the game that allows you to play as about three or four characters, and it includes everything except for the story mode. Or you can purchase the story mode ticket to buy that, or you can purchase individual character tickets, or just all of them. So if you're like, I only ever play as Lei Fang or whatever, like then yeah, you can buy Lei Fang and you're set. Um, but it's such a I don't know. It is executed in such the worst way possible. Like this was like the
Yeah.
worst way they could have released Dead or Alive 6 again. Like it's
That is a
there's
shame.
no upgrade path. There's no like I mean they even delisted the original Dead or Alive 6, so I don't think you can even buy that one anymore. Um,
Crazy.
but I mean like yeah, like and Mai wasn't even ready to be to buy when I had reviewed the game, so I didn't get to play as like literally my favorite character that's been in that game.
Yeah,
Um,
that's crazy.
yeah, it's dumb.
Honestly, when you were telling me about it, when you were playing it, I was just like, I was even sat there myself without playing it. And I was like, well, what's the point of this version then? Like, you know, it's so weird. It's so weird. But, you can go and read Jeff's full review over on analogstickgaming.com, where we recently had another review drop as well from our colleague James, who reviewed NBA The Run. He wasn't greatly keen on that either. He
NBA
felt
the
that,
runs.
but go and check that one out. And then yeah, I think we've got some other stuff coming up soon. Hopefully, we're
Yeah,
hoping to get
I'll
access
be
to some
putting a review
things.
up for that, or sorry, an impressions piece on the Skatari update. That should be coming in
Yes.
the next couple days, and then I'll be putting a review out for Monster Rush Survivors. I've been playing that. It's a
Nice.
very like um, frantic survivors game on the Switch, which is a little bit more difficult than it needs to be and far too simplistic for its own good. It removes a lot of the core staples from the survivors genre that makes those games incredibly fun, and it just decides to go its own route.
Fair, fair. And then, yes, I'll have the Adventures of Elliot review very soon on Analog Stick Gaming. You can, of course, check out my written preview for Resonance of Playtale Legacy over on the Outer Haven in the next few days. And then, yeah, hopefully, we have some cool things coming up as we move into July here before we get to the very busy season of like September, which is approaching very quickly. So we'll see how we get on with that. But thank you for joining us for this episode of the Gaming X podcast. And until next time, it's a goodbye from me.
See ya.